Hello and welcome to MySecurityTV. My name's Chris Cubbage. I'm the editor with the Australian Cybersecurity magazine here in sunny Sydney and joined by Dave Gerry, the CEO with Bugcrowd. Welcome back to Sydney, Australia.
Thank you. It's great to be back. It's great to see you again.
Wonderful. We last caught up at RSA in San Francisco, and this is a really interesting format because we started off, I think that was like April. And here we are,
March, April.
Approaching the end of the year in October.
I know. It's gone fast.
And a beautiful backdrop here in Sydney.
Oh, it's incredible, right? It's an amazing city. It's great, like you said, it's great to be back. And again, great to see you.
Bugcrowd, initially an Australian company. Casey Ellis, I think, is he still the CTO?
He is. So he was our founder. He's our CTO. He's hugely tied back in, obviously, with the tech ecosystem here in Australia. I grew up just outside of Sydney, so this is where we were born, right? This is the roots of Bugcrowd, and this has always been a hugely important piece of our history and our culture at the company. Yep.
What brings you to Australia now? There's a lot of activity here in the market, and we'll talk about Asia Pacific as well, but specifically in Australia, what
so this is our fastest growing market, right? So we continue to see amazing expansion with our existing customers. We have new customers that are signing on with us. We have some of our largest investors that are based here. Again, this is where it all started for Bugcrowd, right? This is the core of who we are. So I'm super excited to be back, seeing a lot of the team members that we have here. It's been a long time since I've been here. I haven't been here since pre-COVID with a whole other company. So I'm excited to be back, see the team. And then obviously we've got CyberCon coming up next week in Melbourne. So starting off my trip in Sydney, and then I'll go down and see the team in Melbourne next week.
And how do your customer profiles sort of suit? As you say, you're sort of born in Australia, but now a global company. How do you find the customer profiles mix and match between the US? Because again, we were talking in the US market last time we met.
That's right.
But yeah, just interested to know if you see any differences in customer profiles or customer needs.
Yeah, so we'll start with the needs side first. So from a customer needs perspective, ultimately all of our customers share a single vision, which is how do they make themselves and their customers more secure? How do they protect key critical data that's important to their business? How do they protect their customer data? So that is a global problem that companies are facing today, right? Whether it's a nation state actor, whether it's cyber criminals, whether it's any other form of a data breach or potential bad actor. So that's a global problem. Now, when we look at Australia in particular, we're seeing those exact same things translate here. We're seeing customers that are struggling with how do they take a more proactive approach to cybersecurity? How do they engage more effectively with this amazing hacker community that exists? And then from what does a customer profile look like here? It looks very similar, right? We're working with the largest banks here in Australia. We're working with some of the largest telcos here. And then we're also working with smaller businesses, right, that are just starting out and they're just starting to get their foothold from a cybersecurity kind of maturity model going, right? So we're working with a wide array of different companies and organizations.
Well, I imagine that's a challenge in its own right because each sector, I suppose that's one advantage with cyber. You know what the problem is for most companies. But again, the business requirements and the business drivers are always different. This year, you also introduced sort of pen testing services as well. Again, does that change your relationship with customers?
So our goal with our customers is ultimately to help them drive their outcome, right? Help them become more secure and start to remove some of the vulnerabilities that exist. Now, how we do that, there's a lot of different ways. When this platform was built, it ultimately very simply created an opportunity in a marketplace to connect the right hacker with the right problem at the right time. Now, what we first saw as the output of that was bug bounty and vulnerability disclosure and attack surface management and attack recon, and now into pen testing and pen testing as a service. So as we look at how does that translate to this market, we're seeing pen testing continue to be a problem that companies are facing. If you look at legacy pen testing providers, it's a point-in-time solution. Typically a long lead time to be able to get your testing going. It's expensive, and ultimately you're getting a report that you're going to stick on the proverbial shelf and you're never going to look at again. We've taken a fundamentally different approach to that. We can have testers deployed in a matter of hours. You're getting the results in real time as we're finding them and the testers are finding them. And then most importantly, you have the ability to do this on a continuous basis where you're getting ongoing security testing of your environment, whether that's through a pen test, whether that's through bug bounty or vulnerability disclosure program. So that's a product that we have seen an immense amount of growth over the last year, as you can imagine, right? Every company on the planet is going to do a pen test at some point, and it's now we have an opportunity to go in and start to show them this is how we do it differently. These are some of the results that you can expect, and most importantly, you can tap into this amazing hacker community that exists all around us in this ecosystem of incredibly talented and dedicated experts that otherwise you don't have access to, right? None of us could hire these people full time. They're in demand. They want to be able to have the flexibility of doing what they want to do when they want to do it, and we're just giving you the ability to tap into that ecosystem of talent.
Maybe what's the difference between sort of pen testing as a service and bug bounty generally? I take it one's on sort of the operational systems and the other one's on the development systems or development process.
So it's a really good question, and this is something that I think as an industry we're going to start to struggle with, because as you think about what is the outcome that you're trying to drive with both of those, whether it's bug bounty or pen testing, you're ultimately trying to identify a vulnerability, identify a weakness, and then be able to have an opportunity to remediate that prior to a bad actor potentially exploiting it. So when we think about bug bounty, this is typically an ongoing program. Now you can do a point in time where you say for the next 90 days we're going to run that, and that's going to be very similar to almost a pay for impact pen test, right? So it's a bug bounty on demand, right? You have the ability to do that over time. Most of our customers are running bug bounty as an ongoing program where they have the ability to either in a private program or a public program start to encourage hackers to come in and say, hey, find the vulnerabilities and do this. Now a pen test in its most kind of conservative definition is going to be focused on a methodology-based test, right? So we're going to go through, we're going to follow a set of criteria. The tester is going to identify vulnerabilities, put that into a report, and ultimately give that back to the client. So those are really the core differences. Typically for compliance use cases or regulatory use cases, you're going to need to be able to demonstrate this is the methodology that was followed, this was the standard report that was given, and ultimately that's given to a regulator or an auditor, versus bug bounty oftentimes is more about how do you become truly more secure. These are customers that aren't looking just to check a box and say I did it, but it's we want to make ourselves more secure. We want to truly proactively fix the security posture of this business.
And I take it there's a platform based to this as well for the customers. So they get those insights, they sort of real-time updates in terms of how it's all performing. Because I imagine you've got some customers doing both.
We do. Yeah. So most customers are using multiple products on the platform. And that's really what separates us from other players in the market, is that we were always built as the platform first. The products and the solutions that we offer are going to continue to grow and change over time. That's what we want in any sustainable business. But the core underlying platform was built in such a way that our customers have the ability to have multiple programs running. We have customers that are large multinational organizations running this on behalf of all their subsidiaries, so they can see the different programs and different solutions that each of those programs are running. And all of the interaction that we have internally with the hacker community, that we have internally with our customers, and the customers have with the hacker community and with us, everything happens in that platform. So no longer are you just getting a PDF report emailed to you at the end of a 6-week test, but now you're able to see in real time, okay, who are these testers? How do we make sure that we're getting the right types of results? How do we make sure we're getting visibility into that testing as it's happening? That's the critical piece, right? The whole goal is that we want to help you identify the right vulnerability as quickly as possible and get those into your hands. It doesn't make sense for you to wait until the end of a test to be able to do that. So now customers have access to that in the same time that we have access from the testers.
Is there feeding into threat intel in this as well, in terms of sort of latest breaches, CVEs that come out? You can sort of at least put in front of the customer and say, look, this CVE's come out, this is within your environment. Do you want that tested, or what else you're seeing? Yeah,
so that's a really, really good point. So under everything that we do is 11 or 12 years of data, right? So we're leveraging that. The first output of that is how do we match the right tester with the right program at the right time, right? Crowd match is what we call it. And now we're looking at, okay, how do you start to take more proactive approach to some of that vulnerability data? How do you start to give customers that early warning system, right? We all remember Log4j. It feels like it was a decade ago. It was really only a couple years ago, a year and a half ago. So as we start to look at examples like that, we have the ability, based on what we're seeing from customer environments, what we're seeing from the hacker community, we have the ability to tell customers, hey, this is something you really need to pay attention to. And we also have the ability to truly rate the exploitability factor, right? Because we're seeing these tests come in real time. We're seeing these hackers come in and say, hey, this is where we can go get you. This isn't a potential vulnerability that may exist. This is something that can be exploited. And that's ultimately where customers are getting the most amount of value from the platform.
So theoretically, it should get harder to be hacking. Is it? Because I think last time we spoke, you're expanding the numbers and the like, but
that's right.
There's just no kind of shortage. It just comes down to the imagination and the skill set of your hacker community.
That's right. And it's also the new technologies that are coming out, right? As you start to see new development processes, new types of applications, IoT devices, 5G, right? All of these things are coming out, and that brings an entirely new set of attack vectors. It also brings an entirely new set of skills that you need to be able to tap into, and that's really the value of the crowd, right? That's not a Bugcrowd thing. That's the value of this amazing hacker community that exists, is you have experts in 5G that if you wanted to hire one, there may be 30 in the world that understand how to do this, and you're able to tap into them through our platform and get their expertise.
It's really powerful. I suppose, what's your reach out? What's your outreach to both your own community and your customers during the year? What do you focus on throughout the year? A better question might be, what's your outlook for 2024? What would your customers and your own community be looking out for?
Yeah, so we're working on a lot of things from a platform and product perspective, right? With some of the things you talked about around how do you start to give more visibility proactively into what's happening out there? How do you start to drive better outcomes for customers faster? How do you make sure that you're providing as much value, not just to the paying customer, they're one of our customers, but also back into the hacker community, right? How do you help build this ecosystem of talent where they're learning, they're developing their skill set, they're ultimately contributing back into this ecosystem, but also getting something out of it in career advancement and ultimately accomplishing the goals that they have on a personal level. So when we think about how do we interact with our customers, it's nonstop, right? So our paying customers are working with their customer success and account management and sales teams and the delivery organization on a regular basis to get value and ultimately understand best practices around building the platform. From a hacker community standpoint, they're working with our hacker success teams, right? Which is probably the coolest job title that exists, right? Is hacker success. How do you make these folks more successful? So we have that constant communication that's going both ways and ultimately through the platform and out to the customers.
Well, I read recently your Inside the Mind of a Hacker 2023 edition, and I think we might have had some of these on our marketplace as well for download. The background to the report and some of the key findings as to what you recall?
Well, so there were a lot of things that jumped out in that report. And this, for me, I've been in this space for a long time. Being able to have a report dedicated to the hacker community is something that we're super proud of. But more importantly than just being proud of it is the value that it drives for the community, because we're able to understand what are the demographics of the hacker community, what are they thinking, how are they feeling, what are they trying to learn, what are they really grappling with as an ecosystem. So a couple of things that obviously AI is the hot topic that everybody wants to talk about nowadays. So it was about 94% of hackers are using AI in some form today, right? This is why AI exists. It helps us all become more productive. It helps us all become more efficient. We're using it, and we've talked about, I think in the last sit down that we did together, we talked about how we're matching the right researchers at the right time, leveraging AI. Now, AI can't replace the human creativity. And that's why 72% of hackers say, this isn't going to replace me, right? I'm still going to have a role. I'm going to have an important part of this community, because it's that human creativity that exists and this ingenuity that we like to say we help unleash the ingenuity of this community, because that's really what you can't replicate with scanners, what you can't replicate with AI, what you can't replicate with name the tool set. that we can help get access to for our customers.
But it's obviously making them a bit more efficient.
That's exactly
and
right.
Those kind of things as well.
Right. It helps make the customer more efficient in terms of how do they get access to vulnerabilities faster, makes us more efficient in terms of how do we serve both sides of this community, and it's going to make the hackers more efficient in terms of how do they find and identify vulnerabilities. How do they go get some of those low-hanging pieces of the process taken off their plate so they can focus on the really critical vulnerabilities that they need to go find.
Are you finding from the customer side a lot more questions on AI applications and their use within their own environment?
Absolutely.
And getting you to test that, pen test that, and see those vulnerabilities and risks that they might not yet see?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's really two components of this. There's the actual vulnerabilities that exist in LLM models.
Yeah.
And then there's also the whole AI safety side of the equation, right? Is this going to become Skyweb that takes over the world, right? Skynet that takes over the world? So I think both sides of those are handled a little bit differently. Certainly on the testing of LLM, we have an incredible amount of experience. The hacker community has an incredible amount of experience through some of the work that we've done, and this is all public around the work that we do with OpenAI and the testing of some of the solutions that they offer. And then on the AI safety, this is a bit more nuanced and new, right? So how do you start to get visibility into when those LLM models have a hallucination, or when do you start to think about concerns being had in terms of what it's capable of? So there's obviously a lot of work to be done there, but certainly on the vulnerability and being able to identify vulns in the actual models themselves, that's something that we're very well suited to help with.
Nice. Well, let's maybe bring it back to Australia. Who are your key sort of partners here, and that you really look after, I suppose, or partner with, and just your outlook for 2024, I think, to finish off.
So this is the core of who we are. This is where we were born. We came out of the StartMate ecosystem. Blackbird has been an investor in us for a really long time. So we value all of the partnership that we get from the StartMate ecosystem, from the Blackbird team, in terms of helping make this region successful, not just for Bugcrowd, but also for the security community, right? How do we ultimately help further the mission that we're all on? I think as we look ahead, the growth here is incredible. So we've seen an immense amount of growth, again, with large financial services companies, with large telcos, with smaller businesses, that we're going to continue to invest here. So we're hiring more people here. We're bringing on marketing teams that are dedicated just to this region. We're bringing on additional sales resources. We're bringing on a lot of the post-sales. So what a lot of people don't know is a lot of our development organization is here.
Yeah, right.
Right? This, again, is a hugely important market for us, not just from the growth and the customer side, but also, again, the core of who we are. This is where we have a significant portion of our team. So they live here, they work here, they're part of this community. So we're going to continue to invest in the community from the events that we're doing, right? We talked about CyberCon next week, hiring more people to the teams, and ultimately, again, being here to support clients.
Maybe your footprint in the region as well, Asia Pacific, Southeast Asia?
Yeah, so we're seeing that continue to grow. So we launched Singapore back 3-4 months ago, right. Maybe a little bit more than that now. So we've launched in Singapore. We're continuing a lot of great work there with a lot of high-profile clients, and then starting to branch out across Asia, right? So where else can we add value, and ultimately, where can we provide a really tremendous customer experience, both on the paying customer side and the hacker side? Right, so we want to be able to serve both parts of that community and make sure we can do that effectively. And a lot, as you can imagine, a lot of the hacker community is within Southeast Asia. So we have an opportunity to go in and continue to provide, and what we hope is an immense amount of value to them as they look to further their careers, and then in turn be able to provide an immense amount of value to the paying customer side.
Wonderful. Well, we last caught up in San Francisco.
That's right.
It's great to be
now
here in sunny Sydney.
Lovely Sydney.
And hopefully we'll catch up in Singapore.
That sounds great.
And cross paths there. But Dave Gerry, the CEO with Bugcrowd, wonderful to have you back on
Thanks, it was great to be here.
And thanks for joining us.